Hi everyone, welcome to part 4 of my alarm clock project. As you can see here, I've actually designed and assembled a case for it. But don't worry, you haven't missed anything. That's what I'm going to be showing you in this video. I'm going to go over the case design, how it fits together, and then we'll go through the assembly. So let's get straight into it. So this is the finished case design. Now, I'm not going to show you every single step of how I came up with this design because that would take way too long. I'm just going to give you a basic overview of the design concept and how the parts fit together. So if I turn off everything apart from the bottom, you can see the bottom has got some grooves in it. One across here at the front and one across there at the back. Now the front and back panels just slot into those, so that's where the back panel will go. And then the front panel, same idea, it just slots in. Now there's no screws or fixings, they're not glued, they'll just sit in there, and then we'll just put the top on and that will sandwich the two parts together, holding the front and back in place with no fixings. And then all we have is 4 screws that screw through from the bottom. Now in the bottom piece, the holes go all the way through and they're actually recessed, so the heads of the screws will sit down in there. But for the top, they just go about halfway down. So that's the basic concept of the case. Now if we have a look at how the PCBs fit, if I turn on the main PCB, turn some of this other stuff off, you can see that just has 3 fixing screws, one here, one down here and one over here. Now if you did watch the PCB design video, you might remember me mentioning that I've got some regrets over the positioning of these holes. Now this one down the bottom here is fine, but these two, I wish I'd done them differently. If I turn off the PCB, you can see they fit here and they slightly overlap the hole where the transparent panel will sit. So what I've had to do is to create some overhangs, one here and one up here. Now that makes these parts quite weak and is far from an ideal design. There is one other issue with it. If we flip it over, you can see that you can actually see them from the front. So that's annoying. I wish I could go back and change that. That's a mistake on my behalf. Now, I had a bit of a backup plan for it, and as you can see them through from the front, I've designed this blanking plate. It just snaps on these pegs here, 3 little pegs, and it just snaps onto them. There's no screws. It just sits on there, and then the PCB sits on top of it, and that squashes everything together. That fits in there quite nicely. Well, what that will do is it will hide those fixings from the front, and will also hide the PCB. If we turn the PCB on without the blanking plate, you can actually see the circuit board, which I didn't like. So the blanking plate just cleans it all up and hides all of that. It worked out quite well. The 2 little red LEDs actually fitted perfectly. They slot down into those 2 holes, so they work quite nicely. Just one regret with it, because I have fully built this and I've tried it. These gaps here, I left them as a bit of tolerance because I didn't know how tight I should make them, and some of the red light shines through those, so that's a little annoying. So if I could go back and redo another one, I'd just make this a little bit tighter around these. But these holes here were perfect. So that's the front PCB. We turn on the top, and we've got the switch PCB. So that fits in there. Get rid of the front for now. That just has 4 fixings. This is more straightforward. It's just 3 across the top and then 1 down at the bottom. They fix onto these little raised areas here. I made them quite solid so that they didn't break off. That's about it for the switch PCB. And then just one more feature. The back panel actually has a hole in it here where the power connector will screw in. And I'll just have to run a cable soldered onto the back of that power connector, and it'll just need to run across to this screw terminal here and screw in there. So with the case all designed, the next step would be to run the parts through a slicer and then get them 3D printed. So all the parts are printed out. I've cleaned them all up and I've test fitted them together. Everything seems to fit nicely. Got them all laid out here in front of me. We've got the bottom piece, top piece, the back panel, blanking plate and the fascia. So I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to start by assembling the fascia. We're going to need this red transparent panel, which will go in there, and we'll need the main PCB and a few screws. First thing to do is to put the red transparent panel into our fascia. Just sits down in there. And then next we need to snap on this blanking panel. It actually goes that way around. It just snaps onto those little locating lugs. They're really there just to keep it in the correct position. So it just sits on there. And then the next bit, a little bit tricky, is to get the PCB on there, and we have to get these 2 little red LEDs to go into those 2 holes. So yeah, a little tricky. I think that's in. I'm going to then fit some screws. As always, I don't want to over tighten anything. That's the fascia assembled. Next thing I want to do is attach the switch PCB into the top. So that just sits in there. Four screws.
That's that. That's what they look like from the top. Nice. Next, what I want to do is connect the two boards together by these jumper cables. They're female on each end, and they'll connect to our male headers here and here. And the thing we need to do is just to connect everyone that's labelled on the switchboard to connect to the exact same position on the main board. Now we don't actually need both grounds, we only need one ground, so that's fine. There's then snooze and minute on here, I believe. Now something I have noticed, another mistake, is the snooze is labelled in the wrong position. It should be one further down. So I believe it should be like that. And then we do connect them to the exact same positions on the other connector. But I believe that is that way round. So the grounds are the black ones. So I've got them orientated in the same way. So the ground's at the top here and the ground's at the top here. That way I know I'm connecting this correct. A little tricky. So the white is next to the yellow. With the purple one right next to the white. So that should be okay. Now I'm actually going to assemble this upside down. So we've got the switches facing down at the moment. This is our front fascia, and I believe we need the wider part to be at the bottom, so that must be this way around because we're upside down. So that should go in there like that, and then these wires should nicely just twist down into this position just to get them out of the way. Then for the back panel, we'll need to insert this power connector. It's just a barrel jack that's panel mount. I picked the nicest side, which I think is this side. I'm going to have that on the outside of the case, and I think I've decided I'm going to orient it this way round. It's actually in the opposite corner to the screw terminals, which is not how I did it on the CAD design, but this way I'll just have a slightly longer cable to give me more room to move things around. So that will go in like that. And we'll just screw that down there. What I need to do next is to get a little bit of power cable to go across here. That needs soldering at this end, so I'm going to do this off camera. So that's soldered on there and then screwed into the screw terminals. Just need to make sure we get the polarity correct. We do have reverse polarity protection in our circuit, but we don't want to rely on that. We want to at least try and get it right. And we just need to put this on here, which is actually the bottom, but we're upside down. Then I need some screws. I believe these are number 4 by 1 inch screws. This should go in easily because I've had them in here before. Again, don't over tighten. Two. Three. Last one. So that's pretty simple to assemble. Some bits are a little bit tricky, but it's not too difficult. The last bit to make the case complete is these rubber feet. These are a bit large for this design, but I just wanted to use what I had. So we flip that upside down. These are just sticky. So they just go in those holes. The holes are really just there to get them lined up. Don't know how well they're going to stick because these are very old. That's quite satisfying. And there we have it. Finished case design. Fully assembled. Nice, I'm quite pleased with that. What do you guys think? Let me know. Leave me a comment below. Tell me what you think. What would you have done differently? So what we'll do in the final part in the next video, we'll just have a look over the code, the program code to make the whole thing work, and then we'll be powering it up and trying it out. So looking forward to that. Leave this here. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.